What is the definition of a hero?
A person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities.
That's interesting. H Calvin Blanton is the definition of a hero. He served our country, saved lives, injured himself, and then came back home to raise a family. But that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. Calvin was born in Salem, Indiana on December 2nd, 1949, and graduated from Salem High School. In 1969, Calvin joined the United States Army and within a year was deported to Vietnam. For nearly the first whole year in the Army, Calvin wrote to his fiancée Denise every day. Then suddenly Denise didn't get a letter for nearly a month. Thankfully, one day in the mail, Denise received a letter from Calvin. But Calvin didn't write it. Someone else did. The letter read that Calvin had been injured in war, however, no specifics were cited. The letter said that Calvin was safe and would be okay. Even with all of this information, the letter failed to mention that Calvin had been in a mine explosion, was moved to Saigon, and had already had surgery. Calvin was moved out of Saigon as soon as possible, and on the way back to the States, had to be put into a body cast for safety reasons. This sounds like no big deal, but with the change in atmosphere, Calvin's lungs swelled just enough that it made it nearly impossible for him to breathe. Our nurse tried to open up the body cast but couldn't. Then the pilot came out with a device that was able to uncut Calvin's cast and he could breathe again. Once Calvin was admitted back to the States, the hospital let him have visitors. Sure enough, within a week, Calvin was finally able to see his fiancée again, as well as his brother and sister-in-law. Once Calvin had reunited with everyone, he finally told his story, which I will tell through his words. While out on ambush with myself and 5 men, we were ordered by my first lieutenant to come back into our platoon, when a tripwire set off a claymore mine, injuring all 6 of us. 3 soldiers died in less than 5 minutes. I managed to reach our radio and call for Med Civic. 45 minutes later, a Huey 7 wouldn't land because nobody had a blue strobe. By this time, the 4th soldier was dead. As they carried me out, it felt like my leg was going to tear off. After landing the Huey 7 helicopter, they loaded another soldier and I on board, still firing rounds off. It took 45 minutes to get us men to Army Saigon Hospital. In there, they were asking questions about how it had happened. They put me to sleep. Doing what they could, it was 3 days before coming to. 2 days later, they moved me to Japan for surgery. Also, General Westmoreland gave me my Purple Heart. Because of Labor Day, I was delayed 3 days for stateside hospital. They flew me back to Oakland, California on a C-141 plane, landing just long enough to unload 7 soldiers, then landing again at Clark Air Base for overnight. From there, I was flown to Louisville, Kentucky, and bused to Fort Knox, Kentucky, for the rest of my surgery and recovery. After 3 months in traction, my right leg healed, being 3/4 of an inch shorter. After being in a wheelchair and using my crutches, I was finally able to walk in late February 1971. And on April 21st, 1971, they discharged me. Calvin went on for over an hour, giving every detail of his experience. This was a special occasion, though, because Calvin didn't speak of this time until their first child was in college. Once Calvin had finally gotten to see his family again, he started physical therapy. And as soon as he could walk on crutches, he came back home to surprise his fiancée. She was over the moon to see him, and that's when he made the promise that as soon as he was a retired veteran and out of the hospital, they would get married. So on April 17th, 1971, H Calvin Blanton married Denise Blanton 1 week after becoming a retired veteran. After this, Denise and Calvin built a house together, which even after surviving his incident, Calvin claimed to be his biggest accomplishment. In this house, the duo raised 11 children, many of their friends, and countless grandchildren. Calvin worked for Norfolk and South Railroad for nearly 50 years. Things were going great. However, in the spring of 2018, a doctor discovered that Calvin needed a liver transplant because he had been exposed to Agent Orange gas from the bombs in Vietnam. This led to a domino effect that forced Calvin to fight in the hospital for months. Sadly, his fight ended July 29th, 2018, when he left this earth due to complications. To this day, Calvin is the most respected person I know and still fits the definition of a hero. Thank you.